How are you all feeling tonight? Yeah? Oh, good. Some people didn't clap. That's a good sign.
Yes.
I don't want everybody to be happy to be here. Cool. So thank you all so much for coming out to the WalkAway LGBT Town Hall, Los Angeles. This is our second WalkAway LGBT Town Hall. The first was in New York City. It's our intention to go around the country having these town halls in as many cities as possible, particularly typically liberal and Democratic Party voting cities, and have conversations within our community. How many people here identify as LGBT? Great. Awesome. Yeah, that's really, really good. Cool. So basically, we're going to just kind of dive right in, and I think that we're going to take turns on the panel telling you just some sentiments, things that we'd like to convey, or maybe perhaps our own personal walk-away stories. And then we really want to make it a true town hall and hear from all of you, take any questions that any of you have, and have hopefully productive and respectful dialogue and back and forth, and discuss our opinions about politics and the way that the LGBT community is typically voting, which is at a rate of over 80% Democrat, typically about 82, 83% Democrat. Is this serving our community well? And is this something that we maybe want to take a little time and rethink and discuss? So I'll just kind of dive right in, and then Blair, do you want to go next? Mikey, and then Ricky? Does that sound good? Cool. All right, so in a nutshell, I was a liberal my entire life, voted Democrat my entire adult life. Why? Because I'm gay, and I don't think I really put that much more thought into it than that. I think the typical notion is that the Republican Party is not the party of tolerance, they're the party of racism, bigotry, homophobia. These are the messages that the liberal media is constantly perpetuating, making us believe this is the recurring narrative of everything that's happening on the left. And I would be happy later, if anybody wants to get into it, yes, but isn't it the Democratic Party that's always supported the gay community, and the Republican Party that's always been against the gay community? Yeah, there's a lot of things I think that we should talk about in terms of that. I changed my mind after the 2016 election. I voted for Hillary Clinton, and I, like many, many people in the LGBT community, hated Donald Trump and was completely horrified and traumatized when he got elected president. I believed the liberal media that had been telling me that he was a racist, a bigot, and a homophobe, and all these terrible things, that he was going to roll back LGBT rights, that our community was in danger with him as the president. I bought into all of it. And when he was elected president, I was terrified, completely terrified. I woke up the day after the election. I made a Facebook video crying, saying that I couldn't understand how this had happened. And I was shocked because the same liberal media that had been telling me, that he was all of these terrible things was also telling me, listen, you don't really have anything to worry about because he only has about a 3% chance of winning. And so it was completely shocking and horrifying when he won, because I suddenly thought we must be living amongst all these covert bigots who smile at us every day and are nice to us to our face, but actually secretly hate us and have contempt for us, and then go and vote against us when they get a chance to go in the booth and vote against our civil rights. The media wasted no time after he was elected, rolling out the headlines, Donald Trump going to roll back marriage equality, Donald Trump expected to sign an executive order repealing this gay right, that gay right, this LGBT right. None of it was happening. None of it was happening, and then they would print these sort of retractions saying, well, it didn't happen this week, but it's expected to happen next week. It's expected to happen next week. There was even one story that said he had his pen in his hand and he was ready to sign, and Ivanka came running in and said, "No, Daddy, no, don't do this to the gays," and she managed to, and we got salvo for like one more week, and it was just ridiculous. Like, these things never ended up happening, and then finally, a friend reached out to me. I posted one day on social media, "I'll never be able to understand how you voted for this man who stood before a cheering crowd and mocked a reporter's disability." And that's when a friend of mine reached out to me with a clip entitled "Debunking that Trump Mocked the Disabled Reporter." This compilation of footage showing Donald Trump doing that exact same voice and that exact same gesture as he did the day that he mocked the reporter's disability. But in fact, the commonality in all of the different scenes were that he was imitating somebody who was caught doing something shady or caught in a lie. And it became very clear to me that he did not mock that reporter's disability. He made fun of that reporter who happened to be disabled, but it blew my mind because for the first time in my life, I realized that the media is capable of taking a moment out of context, spinning a completely false narrative around it, one that is designed to disturb you and disturb basically everything that you consider to be morally good or morally sound or everything that makes you feel safe in the world. And once I realized that, it's the kind of thing that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I see that they do it all the time. They are targeting our community, the LGBT community. They are targeting black people. They are targeting brown people. And they are consistently putting out stories that make us feel like we are in danger, that we cannot succeed, that we're victims in this culture, that we live in an oppressed class of people in this country for which the system is rigged against us and we don't have a fair shot, that we're victims of systemic oppression. I no longer believe this is true. And I no longer fear the Republican Party. And so I walked away. In early March of 2017, I lost most of my friends. And by 2018, I had gone through a very dark and lonely year losing my friends, and I finally said to hell with it. And so around a year ago at this time, I wrote the script for the video that you just watched. I decided to shoot the video with the help of my friend Mike Harlow. And on May 26th of last year, we put out, I created the WalkAway campaign, put out the video and created the WalkAway campaign. And the rest is kind of history. The campaign is, it began as a social media testimonial campaign, encouraging people to tell their stories, why they're walking away from the toxic, divisive, liberal left, and encourage civil and open dialogue and debate, which I think is now so sorely lacking in this country. We decided to make it go beyond just social media and the testimonials that you see and actually put our words into action. And that's part of what we're trying to do with these town halls is travel around, engage in our community. We realized very much so in the New York town hall that we had on March 28th, there are a lot of powers that want to prevent our community from being able to have alternative points of view or even be able to have these conversations. They created a petition against us, which was accompanied with a dossier, which accused us all of being white supremacists, bigots, racists. Blair at one point had a face mask on. They said she was in blackface. That was cute. And through that petition and that dossier, they succeeded in getting our event shut down in New York City. But we did, we were resourceful. We found a new venue. We sold out the event, and we had an incredibly successful town hall in New York City. And so we're not going to back down. We're not going to stop. We're going to continue to go into our communities and have this conversation despite any resistance that there is, including tonight. I mean, there were people went on our website, obviously bought out scads of tickets, and that I think was a form of protest in itself. Every seat in this theater should be full, but unfortunately, I think leftists bought out a lot of the tickets. So yeah, I mean, it's cool, but you know what? We are going to continue to build this movement. We're going to continue to go around and into our communities and have this conversation. And that's really all I have to say for right now. Other than the fact that I just want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight, especially I hope that some of you are here not because you're just fans, but because you actually want to engage in the dialogue and because perhaps you have opinions or views that are in opposition to what you've heard some of us say or what you believe we feel. And I look very much forward to having that conversation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Blair White.
Hi. Is my mic on?
I think your mic's on.
Okay, cool. So I don't have a walkaway moment per se. It was kind of just a gradual change as I got a little bit older. If you don't know, I am a YouTuber, so that's what I do. And I became a YouTuber because I was going through college and I was finding that all of my viewpoints, well, not all of them, but most of them were very much different than every single person around me who was willing to talk about them. And I remember being in a psychology class. This is what prompted me to actually start a channel. I was in a psychology class with a self-proclaimed feminist professor, and everyone in the class was also self-proclaimed feminists. And we were talking about domestic violence, and everyone was telling their story, all the women in the class, about how they were beaten by their boyfriends in the past, and awful shit. Like, everyone was crying. It was very dramatic. And I was crying too. And one male in the class decided to stand up and tell his story about how he came out of the military and his girlfriend would assault him, beat him, cut him, all this shit. sorry, I don't want to curse, I did though. And everyone in the class started laughing at him. And I thought it was really, really strange because we were all having this moment against domestic violence, but when a male victim spoke up, it was like a joke to everyone, and it was a very bizarre moment. And so that sparked me, you know what, clearly I am different than everyone here, let me start a YouTube channel. Completely random, like really random. And I put it up like around midnight or something. I woke up the next day, the video was shared everywhere online, and I was kind of freaked out, but then I realized, okay, I have something here. So my life has changed ever since then. And I've just continuously educated myself even more about politics and where I stand. I was a liberal, self-proclaimed for my whole life until maybe 2015, 2016. And I realized, you know, yes, I'm transgender, and that is sort of, we're under the liberal umbrella, supposedly, right? But I realized, like, well, I believe in strong borders. I believe in small government. I want my taxes lower. And so, yes, the Republican Party, admittedly, is not super great about trans people. Like, I am never gonna be the person to say that the Republican Party is some great ally of trans people, because that'd be fucking bullshit. I will say, however, that I am determined to change that from the inside. That has been a major goal of my channel since the very beginning. I feel like living your truth, being authentic, and standing against a lot of the stereotypes of trans people in the media, because let's face it, it's kind of a joke how trans people are portrayed in the media. It's like we went from Jerry Springer in the 90s to like even worse now. It's like a bunch of just insane people, bearded ladies and all that shit. So yeah, I just want to be a living example that we're not all the stereotype, and I really want to change things from the inside. So yeah, they could be a lot better about trans issues, but I also have all these other beliefs, and I'm not going to compromise every single one of my other beliefs just because the Republican Party isn't always great about trans issues.
The Queen. Is this thing on? Hey! So I guess that I would be the token independent on this panel. I really feel like I'm sort of living proof of the fact that how the left operates today, you don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a conservative or a Trump supporter. You just have to not agree with them and march in lockstep. Even if you are a centrist independent, you disagree with them once and you're done. So they have all these lines about Republicans and Trump supporters, but it's not even, because even if you fall somewhere in the middle and you just aren't exactly like them, then we're still Nazis. So actually, my parents, who are lifelong Democrats, went to a Passover Seder recently. It was my dad's brother, and the subject of WalkAway came up. So they started saying that it is a Nazi group. And so, you know, you ask them questions. Why is it a Nazi group? I don't know. What did they say? I don't know. Well, why do you hate them? I don't know. Why do they hate people? I don't know. Nothing. They have no answers. They just know that we are not in their cult. And my parents were actually asked to leave and never return for speaking up on our behalf. So anyway, I guess I used to be a hardcore, loyal Democrat, super leftist. My WalkAway story is a little bit of an overshare. I guess I've told it a couple times now, but it still feels like pulling my pants down and I have my pecker in my hand. But just what Blair said is very true, because what sort of started the thing that changed my mind was a couple of years back, I was living in some crappy apartment in Brooklyn and had a home invasion, and I was raped. And what Blair said is so true, because all of my friends at the time were like social justice warriors, feminists, rape culture activists. I hate that fucking term, by the way. And that was the exact reaction I got. Shut up, women have it worse. Every day I would get a lecture about rape culture and women. No, these women, they can't walk down the street without being raped, and they're raped and it ruins their lives. So anyway, so I'm a writer, and I decided that I would come out and write a blog about it, because there's such little education about men who deal with these things that I thought I was gonna, blow the whole thing up. So when I did that, I've never in my life gotten so much hate. It was censored, banned, taken down. Within a day, I had thousands of emails. How dare you write this? How dare you say you're not a victim? How dare you try and find humor in it? And these are things that they want to ban, rape jokes or whatever. But that's what made me feel better. But the thing is, it really is this sort of pathologized misery that they want you to just stew in your victimhood, and that's how they can control you, I guess. But So I started questioning everything, and this was at the same time that everyone was becoming psychotically politically correct, where you could not say a word. You know, I'd never been called these names before in my life, and now suddenly every day I was a racist, sexist, homophobic, white supremacist Nazi, just overnight. So anyway, I guess we'll delve in. I agree with Blair very much on what she said, that, you know, I have a lot of issues with the Republican Party. The thing is, the left and Democrats are so psychotic today that they're sort of giving people like us who could be reachable to them nowhere to go except the right. And it seems like today the center-right is sort of the only place for independent thought, it feels like. So anyway, I'm sure we'll get into a bunch of other stuff with questions and stuff. I have lots of feelings about the alphabet soup cults, and like Blair said, it's something I hope to change from the inside, this toxic sort of gay culture that they push. And I'm so happy to hear that everybody here, that there are so many LGBT people here, because I really think something special is starting to happen, that we're sort of building our own community. And our LGBT community is one that is about individualism, love, healthy values, free speech, humor, fun, not just pearl-clutching hysteria and offense and conformity. Thank you!
Beautifully said. First off, I want to thank you, Brandon Straka, for inviting me here today.
You're welcome.
I consider you to be a hero for the LGBT and for many people. I feel like you're freeing a lot of people.
Thank you.
My name is Ricky Rebel. I am a recording artist first, and now apparently I'm an activist because I believe in freedom of speech, period. I believe that we should all be able to vote for whoever the hell we want to. It's really that simple, and be able to talk about it openly. All of my friends are able to wear their Hillary Clinton, I'm with her t-shirts, and heaven forbid I wear a MAGA hat or a Make America Great hat or a t-shirt. I can get my car keyed, I could get beat up, my life is in danger, my career is in jeopardy. I've lost managers, I've lost producers, people who don't want to be associated with me just because I wore the Keep America Great Trump suit at the Grammys, which was one of the most thrilling moments of my life. I regret absolutely nothing. And I have nothing to apologize for, period. I apologize to no one, to the fact that I like President Trump. I don't like him. I love President Trump. And they're really just mad that they can't control me. My last name is Rebel. I found out what I'm rebelling against so much. I don't like people telling me what to do, telling me how to think, telling me how to vote, period. You can do whatever you want. You want to vote for Hillary? Do it. What I think about her, I think she's a murderer. I think she's I think she's out of control. Okay? You guys think Trump is an orangutan, you call him an orange orangutan, and all these horrible things, Cheeto man. You're allowed to call him whatever you want, but I have my views about Hillary and about a lot of the people on the Democratic side. I think they're communist. I think they're turning so far to the left, it's out of control. They're turning to socialism, communism, you name it, it's getting wild. They're pulling it so far to the left. And it's scary because I am a free market capitalist, period. And that's basically how I got, yes. I love free market capitalism. It's amazing. It's lifted the most people from poverty to be able to become Oprah. Oprah had nothing. Oprah had, quote, everything stacked against her. She was a black woman, quote, they say she's a black woman. She was poor. She was raped. And she decided not to listen to those voices in her head that she was a victim. So when these Democrats come out and say, you're a victim all the time, what are these people going to do? They're going to keep acting like they're victims and keep in this vicious cycle of victimhood. So I think that what they're doing is a disservice to the gay community and a disservice to the Black community and everybody, on all minority groups, saying that you are somehow less than everybody else. You're just kind of born that way. And I think that's total BS. Because if Oprah can do it and become one of the richest people on the planet, we all have that opportunity to do that if we have the courage to do so, and the courage to be ourselves, and the courage to tell our story like we are doing right now. So basically, I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm really excited. This is my first political panel ever. And I can't wait to talk about all the issues and everything. So thank you so much for having me here tonight. Thank you.
All right, cool. So that was much faster than the first time we did. We just like sailed right through that portion.
We rambled last time.
There was a lot of rambling. Let's hear from you guys. We would love to take any questions that anybody has, or have any discussions on any issues that anybody might have. Anybody?
Hello, I'm Richard. Hey. Hi, Blair. Sorry. So I just moved to LA from Utah, gay, and I am really scared to, I've come here and there's this gay community that has accepted me and has really saved my life, literally, and I am indebted to them, and I'm experiencing this whole new world, but at the same time, the politics in this world are something that I generally am very opposed to. But I feel like if I were to be open with that and do what you guys are doing here, then I would lose that immediately and be back in this place of darkness that I've been in for so long. And I just was wondering what you guys thought about that and your experience, because you've obviously done that, lost friends, and how you coped with that. Or maybe if it's not for everyone, maybe it's better to lay low sometimes.
Okay, after you, I want to talk about that.
I would say, first of all, we can be your friend.
Yes.
I relate to that so hard because once I started my channel and it became a lot more public about my views on certain things, I lost all the friends I had at that time, minus like maybe one or two. So I completely relate to that. I think everyone here does.
Yeah.
And I would say that kind of goes back to the point that you made, which is like, maybe the answer is creating our own community, you know what I mean? And also just accepting that if you lose a friend because of a political belief, wasn't really your friend. That's what I've kind of accepted. It's like, if you're willing to accept me for, all these other things, but like how we feel about like immigration and taxes is like really the deal breaker, then you're not really that good of a person. So just kind of like accept it. And like, there are other people out there that are open-minded. It's not all of the community that would shun you, I don't think. At least we won't.
No.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who have open minds and higher IQs. Period. Period. Because it is an IQ issue. Period. It really is. Maybe you need to be with friends who have a higher IQ, who are capable of viewing you as a total man, okay, not taking into your account, okay, I disagree with this one thing, I can't be his friend anymore. But I like all of these other things about this person. So they're not smart enough to understand that, it's okay that you disagree on this thing, but they like everything else about you. So you have to find smarter people to hang out with.
Here's the thing. Would you be able to be friends with somebody if they didn't accept you for being gay? Like close friends?
No.
Exactly. The thing is, like, I don't know, I feel like they have so here's the thing. There was a recent study that showed only 8% of the country identifies as hard leftist. And I think it's like 6% that identifies as hardcore conservative. The vast, vast, vast majority of us agree on most things, fall in the middle somewhere. So 8% of the country right now is controlling what every one of us can say and think, when most people don't share their views. And I just really feel like I know it's really difficult as an individual because I can't sit here and lie to you and tell you that you're not going to pay a price for it. But what I can tell you is that the friends you will make will be so much better, will be people who love you and accept you and could not care less about anything. I think what's really important collectively is that every one of us who allows ourselves to be socially pressured and bullied into shutting up is another person that they're able to exert control over. So I really think what it's going to take to change this culture is every like-minded person standing up and being outspoken. And we'll totally be friends with you.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Mike said because I agree so much. I mean, I truly believe that liberalism at this point is a cult. And I believe that the cult ideology of liberalism has targeted vulnerable people. That's what cults do. And the most vulnerable people in our society are people who feel like they're on the fringe or feel like they are marginalized. People of color, gay people. It's just like you said. You said the gay community saved your life. So here you have these groups of people, like I'm assuming what you meant by that was that you probably came somewhere where you didn't feel accepted, you didn't feel tolerated, so you moved somewhere where you did, right? So do you then have to pay the price? So you now are in a culture or a group of people who finally you feel like you can be yourself in terms of your sexuality, but you can't be yourself anymore in terms of your political ideology. And so where I piggyback off of what Mikey says is that what simply needs to happen is more of what's happening here and more of what's happening here. More of us need to speak up and step up, and somebody has to boldly proclaim, listen, the emperor is not wearing clothes here, because guess what? So many other people in the room are thinking the exact same thing. They just think that they can't say it. No one else can say it because they finally feel like they found a space where they're accepted and they're tolerated, coming from somewhere where they weren't. And now they have to sort of succumb to the groupthink of this new hive where they feel accepted. But the truth is, the majority of people, like Mikey said, know that there's bullshit going on here. They're just afraid to say it. So we need to say it more. You all need to say it more. We need to continue to do these things, these things until this group multiplies by 2 and multiplies by 2 and multiplies by 2. Because the majority of people feel the way we do.
Straight Muslim guy, but it's still I still face the same challenges, and like before I even cared anything about politics, when I was getting loaded, I kind of just thought I fell under that like liberal umbrella, because that's kind of just being a conservative. You kind of just thought, well, I always thought it was just like that's for old white guys, and then like when I got sober and the whole Trump thing was happening, and we were talking about it, and everybody was like, oh, fuck, excuse me for the kids, screw Trump and all that shit. And then I started to I started to do some research. I started to follow people like Blair and DC Drano, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I grew up poor, and I, always had to work and all that good stuff. And I'm like, I don't really relate to being a liberal like that. And so many people unfriended me, family members, I got disowned, and basically I just wanted to thank all you guys for being here, because, like you guys were saying, we have to stick together, whether you support Trump or not. I mean, we gotta show people that just because you're gay or just because you're black or Muslim doesn't mean you have to be a liberal. Doesn't mean you have to vote for a Democrat, and that's all I got, so thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, dude.
You probably don't know it, but you're going to be the soundbite for this town hall.
Yay!
That is going to be a viral video from this town hall. And by the way, can we make sure the microphone is on? Because I don't think his mic was on.
I was just going to say real quick, just responding to you real quick. I think that you actually said something that's really key. If you look at the left, they are always ready to slit your throat. They always eat their own. It's a snake eating its tail. And I think the difference between them and us is that we all believe different things. You don't have to be a Trump supporter. You don't have to be a Republican. You don't have to be anything. But we have each other's backs.
How you doing?
Hi.
I'm Tyler. And the question I have is aimed more towards Rick.
Hi.
Because,
I like your hair.
thank you. Because the thing is, like, I work in the entertainment industry. Low level, nothing fancy, but of course I want to chase the dream, I want to make my own show, all that noise. But, as we both know, there's a lot of stuff going on in the entertainment industry. So I guess my question to you is, how would one go about stealthily finding the non-crazies? It'd be really great to collaborate with people who aren't crazy.
It's hard in Hollywood, isn't it? Majority of people in the entertainment industry, if you guys don't already know, 98% liberal. It's pretty crazy. Or maybe there's a lot more that don't. There are a lot that don't talk about it. They come up to me like, secretly, I love Trump too. Or good job, I'm really proud of you. I wish I had the courage. Here's the thing, you gotta be a man, okay? Don't be bullied. Don't be a little biatch. So, it's really that simple. They have to understand that, you're your own man, and they have to, people respect that about me because I don't apologize, and I am alpha about it. Even though I'm wearing makeup, and I'm glam, and I wear the nice clothes, and all, tight clothes and things like that, I'm still a man, and I'm still alpha. And the way you be alpha about it is you don't make apologies for it. And you will attract all these other people. I just did a tour in Japan for like 3 weeks. And thank you. And it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. There were people there, the Japanese culture is really beautiful, and they're so warm to me and receptive, and I sold all my CDs, like 1,000 CDs in like 15 minutes. Nice. I mean, this is all stemmed from the thing that I did at the Grammys. Because, Ricky Rebel, he's at the Grammys, and you come over there.
That was a microaggression.
Arigato gozaimasu. So I'm given all this other opportunity. Yes, you're going to lose opportunity. There are people in the industry who are small-minded, who do not want to work with me anymore, and good riddance. I don't want to work with unopen-minded people. I only want to work with, like I said, intelligent people who get, even if they hate Trump or hate, don't like what I believe in, they still have an open heart and an open mind to still want to work with me. So the answer to your question is, when you come out and you're alpha about it, you're a man about it, and say, hey, I like Trump. Everybody's trashing him at the meeting or whatever. You come out and you say, I like him. I think I like this, and this. They're going to respect you, and you're going to find there's so many awesome movie producers and record producers and presidents of companies who love Trump or who love free market capitalism. You're going to attract them to your world. And it'll be better. Trust me.
And if you're an artist, I would also say make your own stuff, whatever you do. I think that's really what it's going to take. Because I'm in the same boat. I have a TV series I created that we start shooting in a couple months. And I think I've just decided to go fully independently with it and start a production company. Because if you look at unscripted content, news media and stuff, the mainstream media, the corporations, they're getting their asses kicked by YouTube and independent alternative media because people like you guys decided to put your stuff on YouTube. But nobody's done that with entertainment yet. So I think it's really going to take a bunch of us to do this same exact thing with scripted content.
I just wanted to make a quick full disclosure. I'm not technically a Trump supporter, but it's totally fine if you are.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you for that. And if any of you out there are into animation, let me know.
Yay!
Ooh, we'll talk.
Why don't you give us your card too? Because we make videos for WalkAway campaign. We need animators. So please give a card to my assistant, Melissa.
Look at that.
See how that works? Law of attraction.
That's right. Booking a job already.
Hi, my name is Kayla. I don't really have any questions, but what I'm talking about is the reason why I walked away from the left, the liberal media, everything like that. But I'm a musician. I play an extreme genre of heavy metal. So, look at you! For my first show with one band that I was in, but I'm not in anymore, Antifa decided to harass venues. They decided to harass the venue owners, and they decided to harass and try to dox bands for being Nazis, or they claim that they're Nazis. And there's a big problem with Antifa claiming that they're fighting fascism when they're fascists themselves. And it's a big problem in the entertainment industry where, they're trying to silence the freedom of speech, basically. And they want to call everybody that they disagree with Nazis. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And I walked away from the left because I do not believe in any type of censorship, no matter what. And the thing is, people just need to stop being pussies. Plain and simple. It's absolutely awful. I have been doxxed by Antifa. I've been harassed by Antifa. My band was harassed by Antifa. And then when Antifa got the show canceled at one venue, they moved it to a bigger venue. And there was more of a turnout. There was more people there. And the Antifa people that showed up, it was 3 protesters that got outnumbered, and they couldn't even spell a black, or not black metal, but a musician's name correctly, Tony Iommi, Black Sabbath, duh. They couldn't even spell that. And they're like, hey, that's not a Nazi name, that's not an Aryan name. And it's like, what's that even have to do? And it's just ridiculous. It's like you're completely outnumbered. Thanks. That's the problem. We have to stand together against that.
Thank you for sharing.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey. Great to see you guys. So, firstly, I'm walking. I'm currently walking away. And I think that kind of the epiphany came, like a lot of you said, after the election, where it was just like what everybody's saying, what's actually happening or not lining up, and I'm conflicted, and my friends are weird, and but I think it really came to a head once, like this past, like with, I'm Jewish. I was raised Jewish. I'm engaged to an Israeli. It's a very big part of my life. Can you clap for the Jews? Thank you. And I think it used to be like a real thing. Like on the left, they talk about Trump being anti-Semitic. Like no matter what he did, he was anti-Semitic. It's in Jerusalem, is there, the capital, it's like we're moving everything there, but he's anti-Semitic, and all of those things were so conflicting to me because you could call him a lot of things and get the argument, and make a good argument about it, but anti-Semitism just wasn't one. And for a long time, I believed that the right was more anti-Semitic and a lot of that, and then when it came to seeing how the left is kind of adopting people like, I'm sorry to say it, Ilhan Omar, and kind of like justifying what she does and like making it okay what she says and things like that, and learning that it's definitely something that's happening on both sides. It's not something that you can claim one party is doing. I think one thing we were talking about, Jeffrey, before we came in was that walk away isn't necessarily, at least for me, it's not walk away from liberalism towards like the Republican Party. It's like walking away from the idea that like I only have these 2 things to choose from.
Yes!
I have to represent me. Because I feel both sides threaten me. So I'm also curious, you said you went to a pastor. Are you Jewish?
My dad is. I guess I'm an ex-Jew and an ex-Catholic. I'm a fallen everything.
But I guess if you have any association with your Jewish identity in like your daily life, like how do you feel about how the left is kind of like co-opting or letting like some of that radical Islamic ideology kind of just be a part of it in terms of like because she's a brown woman of color, like that supersedes anything she might say that's problematic.
Exactly.
That supersedes everything to them. That's what intersectionality is. And, you know, intersectionality, it sounds like a lovely thing in theory that all groups should care about each other, have each other's back, care about each other's struggles. But what it does in practice is it ranks human beings by group identity. And there is a very clear hierarchy. And Muslim is at the top of the hierarchy. And there are two things that are not on this hierarchy: Jew and Asian. Those are two groups that they hate. It's just true. But no, I'm horrified by it, because it's not, Ilhan Omar is just one person. That would be an isolated incident. It's what they've done for years with Louis Farrakhan, with Linda Sarsour, with all of these people, the BDS movement. It's crazy. I'm sure you saw Antifa?
Yeah. It's like, where's security?
Security.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw it the other day. The New York Times posted a ridiculously anti-Semitic cartoon. And it's funny because the left talks on and on and on about the alt-right, which, first of all, I think every person in this room would agree, fuck the alt-right, but they're like 10 people. They don't have, and the thing is, the thing is, these conspiracies that radical leftists have about Jews are the exact same talking points as the alt-right. And when you go far enough left and far enough right, eventually it comes full circle. And I do think today the left and Democrats are the side that is more anti-Semitic than the right. Also, you're awesome.
I just want to say that it's really great to see all the...
Hold it a little closer to your mouth, please.
Hello?
That's what she said.
It is a gay panel.
I just want to say how wonderful it is to see all these people in LA, a very little town, come together and start, giving momentum to this movement. When I first saw you online, I just thought, wow, this is amazing, because with the WalkAway campaign and everybody from like all walks of life, I mean, liberal, black, white, I mean, everybody was coming out and giving their WalkAway story, and I shared almost every single one of them on my feed or whatever, because I don't really care to share about myself that much. But my question, I guess, is what role do you think social media has in our current culture as far as influencing the minds and the hearts of people, in regard to freedom of expression? Our First Amendment is our free speech, and we're finding censorship, up and down the board in Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, and I mean, just every platform online seems like it's completely owned by the liberals. So I guess, I've seen you break through. There's a couple other groups that have broken through, but it seems like for the most part, social media and the online realm is completely dominated by liberalism, and these cults just have been, I guess they've been funded so well that they just, go out of control in every direction with, extreme Sharia law, embracing things like the hijab that completely, desecrate women's rights, and embracing cultures like that and ideas like that, at the same time, saying that they're pro-gay, which is a complete, contradiction. So I guess my question is, like, where do you see social media going, and how can we all make a change on social media? Because I think it has a big influence on our culture.
I think Silicon Valley is probably going to ban a shitload of people now that 2020 is coming around, which is kind of scary because I make my living on the internet. I think the mainstream media is absolutely dominated by liberalism, but I think that when you look to the online space, there are very few liberal counterparts that are as popular, as well-spoken, and as electric as a lot of the figures on the right. I think if you look on Twitter, even on YouTube, if you look at liberal YouTube channels, they get like 1/10 of the views of a lot of us who do right-wing commentary. So I think that's pretty telling of where the country's at. That if you turn the TV on, you're going to see nothing but liberal talking points. If you go to the internet, it's a lot more balanced, and I think that they're going to work to make that not as balanced soon, which is scary.
Okay. One of the reasons I think WalkAway even exists, honestly, and this movement is happening, is because I was a former liberal. And what I mean by that is, this is something that, like, on a daily basis infuriates me. Conservatives are so lazy and so complacent. All they do is bitch about the country going to hell, and then they don't show up for anything, and they don't do anything. Okay? Thank you, Tony, you showed up. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because why hasn't a conservative come up with an alternative social media platform? Are we gonna, into perpetuity, bitch about the fact that liberals control the social media? Why are we bitching about the entertainment industry and our jobs being taken away instead of just taking control and creating our own content and empowering ourselves? Roseanne boldly stood up and portrayed a Trump supporter on television, and it was the #1 show the first week it came out, 20 million viewers. She crushed everybody. Yes, they took her out because they are still in control, but at least she did something. Who else is doing anything? You know, I created WalkAway because I wanted to do something, but frankly, I think it was the liberal side of my brain that said, I'm gonna do something about this. Yeah. It's time for conservatives to get off the fucking couch, get out from behind your computers, stop bitching about the world going to hell, and take action. There's a little bit of victimhood mentality in the conservative side too. Stop being victims. You're not a victim. Take control of the situation. Use your voice. Use your power. Create something. Do something. Somebody make a social media platform. Someone make a television show for conservatives. Stop giving all the power to the liberals. We have power too. Let's use it.
Oh, I get such a brain boner when Brandon criticizes conservatives.
I love it. I was gonna say, like, I think that I've met some amazing conservatives after coming out of the Trump closet. I met some amazing people, and they're such warm, compassionate people, and many that I've met, and they're actually very receptive to me. And I think a lot of times their faith, a lot of conservatives have, faith in God, and it keeps trying to be a kind person, or, I kind of get that vibe, because I too was a liberal, and I still consider myself to be like a classical liberal. But I feel like that also keeps like the hardcore conservatives from really fighting back, because I think they might think like, oh, well, is this the right thing to do morally, to get as aggressive as they are? Because they're super hyper aggressive, because a lot of them don't believe in God or have any repercussions for those things. So I think that kind of holds conservatives back a little bit, what I've noticed.
But there are ways to, I think, engage and get involved without fighting or playing by the same rules that they do. I mean, I don't do that. WalkAway isn't about like fighting, despite what you might read on CNN or Washington Post or something. We're simply taking action and refusing to be part of the victimhood culture that is existing on the right. I'm not saying that in the same way as the one on the left, but I mean legitimately every day Trump supporters are being spit on, punched in the face, fired from their jobs, whatever. And what are conservatives doing? Well, I'm just not going to wear my MAGA hat in public. I'm just not going to tell anyone I support Trump. I'm just going to keep it to myself. 63 million people voted for Donald Trump. He won the election. What would happen if 63 million people boldly stood up and said, I support the president? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?
I think, though, that this is emblematic of a bigger issue on the right, that I think something that for me is important, at least, is I feel like it's not enough to criticize Democrats on the left. We have to hold Republicans accountable too. And it speaks to a bigger issue. For example, over 90% of the black community votes Democrat. Why? 90% of people cannot all be wrong. Now, you could say that there are factors of the media and stuff like that. However, that's also because Republicans have been really shitty to the black community for decades and have done nothing to change the perception that conservative or Republican means racist. They've done nothing to change that. They were horrible to the gay community for a while. So I think it is the people in this room and people like us who are changing that. And I just hope to see more of that change.
Do you have any suggestions or ideas of how to get the word to more Republicans? I mean, I'm a Republican, but I don't necessarily agree with everything they do. I only have so much of a word that I'm trying to get out, but the people that can afford to do new social platforms, that can do more, how do we get the word to them? Because I feel like that's really, if we start with them, then everybody will fill in underneath them.
Got it.
Is your question how do we get the people who are in positions to create such things to do that?
Yeah, because it's a great idea, but I mean, I will randomly tweet Sean Hannity and say, okay, you just complained about it, but throw out an idea.
Right.
And so I'll tweet, but I don't know if they read it. I don't know. I just don't know how else to get to these people that have the ability to create more for more middle people, or to show that the Republicans really, we aren't bigoted, or anything.
Okay, but I don't like the concept of the question, because the concept of the question is that only people in power can make change.
Right.
I did not start the WalkAway campaign with any power. I started the WalkAway campaign with $350 in my savings account, less than that in my checking account. I didn't have a single media contact in my phone. I didn't know any politicians. I knew nobody. I was a guy who was living basically at the poverty line, who created a video, and I created a Facebook group. And here we are today. And one of the things I encouraged people to do was to make testimonials. We have the internet now. I mean, we have the ability, we have a camera in our pockets, a video camera that we all carry around in our pockets. Point it in front of your face and tell the truth about what it means to be a conservative. That's who we call the walk withs. Why do you walk with those who walk away? Because you're not a racist, you're not a bigot, you're not a homophobe, and all these horrible things that you've been accused of being. You are a Republican, I'll speak for myself, and I think I speak for you too, probably because you believe in the sovereignty of our nation, that we deserve to be a independently recognized country that doesn't have to succumb to globalization. You believe in free speech, you believe in free markets, you believe in capitalism and its ability to lift people out of poverty. You believe in the right to bear arms, and you believe in freedom. And that's what Republicanism is all about. Anybody has the power to record that message and put it out. And you don't have to give the power to millionaires and billionaires to make a change. I feel like I made a change. Every person on this panel has made a change. And I don't think any of us are millionaires yet.
Not yet.
WalkAway, then we can do those billboards that they were talking about.
Listen, I'm never going to tell you not to give more money to WalkAway. Come on.
Thank you. Hi. Hi, Blair. Hi, Mikey.
Hey.
Hi. Those are my conservative friends. Hi.
Hi.
My name's Jeffrey. I am one of the probably only center leftist type of folk here in the room. But here's the thing, is that I don't like it when people shut down conversation and dialogue. I came because I have two friends on the panel, and I'm actively engaged in listening. I wish both sides would do more of that. I haven't been in this room and been pissed off one time. It's fascinating. Well, maybe like half the time. But my question really is, because I think there's value in dialogue, I have a podcast. I always try to get all points of view represented on there. And it's always important for me to have conservative voices on there. So if you're interested, see me afterwards. But how do you facilitate conversation in your social circles that might be blended and might be not just this safe space that you've created in here? Because I do think in order to get somewhere, everyone has to talk to each other at some point.
Yes.
There was a moment earlier in the panel, I noticed Blair, and I forgot your name already, the guy who started it. You guys said,
Vladimir.
I didn't mean that disrespectfully. But you guys both mentioned that you cried at some point over politics or something. And there was a laughter in the room. And I think just as human beings, we need to allow each other to have emotions and to talk through that and recognize that and have that be okay. Does my question make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I think what's been said a couple times here is that Republicans should probably drop the victim act and stop being pussies and just proudly declare what you feel about things. I think that's honestly a big part of it, because I know for me, when I go through comments on my YouTube channel or my Instagram, the overwhelming majority of comments, other than creepy ones, are people saying, how do I share my opinion, which is like the most basic thing that we all should enjoy that freedom living in this country, but so many people don't know how. So I think it's just about teaching people to not let yourself be bullied, and to also, you know, you're a very open-minded liberal friend of mine, which I love, and also to maybe spread the message among your liberal friends that like they can have conversations with conservatives, you know, like we should be braver as in conservatives, and liberals should be, you know, not wanting to shut everything down, basically.
Yeah, and I think it's just judging people as individuals is what it all comes down to. Because, you know, I see on my social media a lot of times conservatives do the exact same shit that they're like, oh, he's liberal, fuck that. Like, you should not judge people based on their politics until they give you a reason to. Don't prejudge people. But I think it's just discussing things with people and being tolerant and not assuming that somebody is going to be a terrible person until they give you a reason to think that they are.
Yeah, and I think that it starts with your art and your talent. I like to share my experience through my music, and that really helps me break barriers and soften hearts. So I think that that's also a great communicator, is using whatever your talent is to relay the message that you want to talk about. So that's how I feel like I'm able to write music and then gain some fans, and they talk to me back and forth. They say, well, why do you like Trump? I love your music and I love everything. I just don't understand what's going on. So that's allowed me to open up the dialogue with them, because I had the courage to, you know, tell the truth and use my art in a way that opens up the conversation for them.
And I'm a firm believer in picking your battles too. Like, there are certain situations where perhaps you're at a party or a dinner and you're in mixed company, you start engaging in the conversation of politics, and we all know that feeling we get when things are just instantly spiraling south quickly, right? Yeah, like I had this dinner this one time. I went out with my friends. It was 6 friends, and I knew I was friends with 4 people at the table. This is after I'd already walked away. I can't believe they even invited me to dinner. It was bizarre because they basically all cut me off. But they did invite me to this one dinner because one of them had come to visit from out of town. And then there were 1 or 2 people at the table who I'd never met before. And I just had a feeling that we'd get into politics, and I had made a decision, stay out of it tonight, just stay out of it. So we got to dessert, and politics came up, and I was literally just staring at the table as they were saying all of these incredibly stupid things, you know, just like, oh, how are we going to beat Trump? Well, we need to find a black woman. We need to find, and she's got to be in a wheelchair, and she's got to be, and she needs to be non-binary or two-spirit, you know, and whatever. And so I'm just like staring at the table, just like rocking and going into my my own safe space, internal safe space. And I took as much as I could take until this one woman who I didn't know, across the table, she was a white woman, of course. She said, well, I don't know, she goes, I don't know about you all, but I will never vote for another white man. And I couldn't. So I just looked up and I said, I'm sorry. Did you just say that you'll never vote for another white man? And just very proudly, she said, yes, I did. And I said, right there, that's why you lost. She burst into tears. This is not a lie. Burst into tears, grabbed her purse, and stormed out of the restaurant and didn't even pay for her part of the meal. But at that point, I was like, that was probably a battle I did not need to pick. You know, because I was sort of like, you know, that woman is not in a place where she's ready to change her mind or walk away. But there are people who are. And you can have disagreements with people, and I think that you can kind of gauge, this is a productive conversation, you know, and there are times, and you seem like someone that we could disagree and have a productive dialogue back and forth. This is a battle that I will pick. You know, situations like that in the future, you just have to know, she just ain't ready yet, you know, and move on.
It does sometimes, though, it honestly does sometimes feel like being closeted. It's the same feeling when you're in a group. I've been in the same room with you where people are saying outrageous things and my tongue is bleeding, I'm biting it so hard. But it really is the same feeling as being closeted, that like, oh, they'll hate me so much if they know who I really am, if I give an opinion, if I say anything. And yeah.
Well, I have a question for you, Mike. I have a question for you.
Oh, I was like, where's that coming from?
I always get this question from interviewers. Was it harder to come out as a conservative than it was to come out as being gay?
Okay, so disclaimer, I will just say for me personally, because I know that, in many ways I've had it easier in coming out and being gay than a lot of other people have. There are some people who've gone through hell in it. I sort of am old enough where I sort of caught the tail end of the country being homophobic. I sort of witnessed it change, and it was totally different then. And the thing is, I'm not even super conservative. I'm like center-right. But for me, that was 1,000 times harder than coming out as gay. I never lost many friends for being gay. I was never anything, Yeah, it's much harder today.
What about you, Blair, as trans?
Ooh, that's
Oh
interesting.
yeah, I never lost a single friend over coming out as trans. I was very much celebrated, I was very much supported, which is amazing. Shout out to everyone who did that, even though they left once I started a YouTube channel, which is so funny because when I started my channel, I don't know, I was just talking about feminism and gender, I didn't even really get into politics. That was something that evolved for me over time. So yeah, it was definitely harder to be open about my beliefs than to be open about being trans.
What about you?
Me too. Me too. I've lost some of the most important, best quote relationships in my life. People, ironically, who I considered best friends. It's always the bestest friends that you might potentially lose, your best friends. But in reality, it's like we spoke about, if they're not really open-minded enough to accept this small part of you, then maybe they're not really your friends to begin with, and that's okay too. But I think that your political point, the politics is just a small part of who you are. It's just like your sexuality. I think that sometimes we put a lot of importance on our political views and things like that, and if you don't accept my views, and I can't be friends with this person anymore. Left does that a lot, as we know, but the right does that too. So sometimes we have to, I think, be forgiving of that and try not to do that to other people as well. Just kind of get that we're not going to always agree on everything and still try to manage to work with each other. Because my stylist, she's really amazing, and she completely hates Trump. With a passion, and she's Russian, but she's one.
Wait, you're not colluding with
Yeah,
your
I thought the
stylist?
Russians loved Trump.
I'm a Russian bot. I must confess. No, I mean we get along because she has an open mind about it. She's like, I don't like Trump and everything, but I love you, Ricky. So please understand that you are not your politics. You are not your sexuality, all these little identifier things. We're so much more than that. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah. I have to jump in and answer this because I'm actually the one sort of dissenter, I guess, on the panel. For me, coming out as gay was much more difficult than coming out as conservative. Unfortunately, I'm a little older than the others on the panel, and I think that probably had something to do with it. I mean, I grew up gay in the 80s, and in a tiny little town in Nebraska, a little tiny farm community. I experienced an enormous amount of bullying and violence and fear and intimidation, and being gay was very, very scary during the time I grew up and where I grew up. What I can say is different about it for me is that there's something very different and I think disturbing about being ostracized by your own community who really should know better. Because isn't this the community that came together because we all sort of faced this unique experience of being a minority class that wasn't necessarily accepted, and now we're doing it to each other. Right. I think that's extremely disturbing.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to add real quick. I came of age, I guess, in a different time than you, so it was probably much harder then. But I remember how it was when I came out, that it was so much different than it is now. We've progressed so quickly in terms of acceptance of LGBT people, and I think that is why I take such strong exception to the left acting like we're such victims. We are empowered. We are living in the easiest, freest time in human history to be any sort of LGBT. We are strong. We are empowered. We can do anything we want.
My name is Jocelyn. I just want to start off by saying I'm trans, Black,
Black and Jewish. So I used to from the left. However, I do identify as conservative, and I've gotten a lot of crap for it in public, especially from people I don't know. So I was just wondering if any of you had really like horror stories from people who have come up to you randomly. I know Blair has had a drink thrown in her face. But like if you've had any like horror stories of people being extremely rude to you in public that you don't know and how you've overcome that and kind of like handled that situation.
Does everybody know about the recent model at the airport story?
Yeah.
It's a fun one. I'll tell this one because it's fun, and then because it's not that horrifying, but I'm sure there are horrifying stories. So a couple of weeks ago, I was at LaGuardia Airport in New York City on my way somewhere, I don't remember. And I was waiting for my bag to come through security, and I was wearing my red MAGA hat. And this girl came up to me, and this is the perfect community to tell this story to, because you guys will get it. Well, because I feel like gay people get it on a different level. You know how like when you're gay, or LGBT, whatever, and you, there is that person who is homophobic or transphobic, and they won't just come out and say it, but you know they are just based, like the way that they're snidely looking at you or whatever, and you're just like, I know exactly what you're thinking, bitch. Like, you know. But liberals do it too, to conservatives. So I'm there in my MAGA hat, and I'm waiting for my bag to come through, and she comes over, and she's just like, just looking at me, and I feel her like a dark cloud hovering over. So I look over at her, and she says to me, oh, I thought that was real. And I'm pointing at my hat, and I said, it is real. And she goes, oh, I'm just confused. I thought that anybody in their right mind would be too embarrassed to wear that in public. And I said, why should I be embarrassed? And she goes, oh, I don't know, maybe because Donald Trump is a racist. And I said, how is he a racist? And she said, he just is. I said, no, tell me anything he said that's racist. Everything he says, everything he does, everything is racist. And then she said, and anyone who supports him is a racist too. At this point, I took out my camera, pointed at her, and I started filming. She lost her shit. So she reaches over, grabs my hand, physically like digging her nails into my hand, and grabs my phone out of my hand. She goes, please stop filming me. I'm a model. Leave me alone. I'm a model. I said, bitch, I'm a national treasure. Don't start. So she takes my camera out of my hand. She stops the recording. So I get my camera back, and I start recording again. She flips out. I'm a model. She grabs my hand again and takes my phone out of my hand, stops the recording. I get it back a third time and push record. At this point, she runs over to TSA, and she says to them, this guy won't stop filming me. He won't leave me alone. I don't know why he won't leave me alone. So I said to TSA, actually, I was minding my own business, waiting for my luggage to come through. This girl decided to come over, harass me because I'm wearing a hat that says that I support the president. That's what actually happened. And so at this point, she's trying to play the victim, and she's being like, oh, you know, whatever. And so I just went up to her with my camera on, and I just very politely whispered to her, I have about 155,000 very active Twitter followers. You're about to become very famous. A very, very famous model. Right at that moment, and this is how we all know for sure that God exists. Right at that moment, a guy walked through security and goes, are you Brandon Straka? Oh my God, I love everything you do, and I love your hat. You can watch the video. That's the honest to God truth, exactly what happened. The video is on Twitter. I put the video on Twitter. Within about 5 minutes, the Twitterverse identified this young lady, and she did in fact become a very famous model.
And I want to speak up for my friend right here real quick, because he's too humble-ish to tell you. But what he did the exact opposite of what a lot of liberals and conservatives would have done in that situation. Did he go online and hound her and harass her and tell people to? No, he saw her, I think mother was sick, and there was a GoFundMe, and he asked people to donate to it. So that is who he is.
What I said was, thank you, Mikey. What I said was, wouldn't it be something if this person who clearly has such a problem with anybody who supports the president, wouldn't it be something if Trump supporters went and donated to her sick mother's GoFundMe and signed it simply from a Trump supporter? And within 10 minutes, over $1,000 was donated to the GoFundMe from Trump supporters. And then she shut the GoFundMe down.
Wow. That gave me chills.
That is
though.
next level petty.
Screw
you, Mom. I have a point to prove.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. I have a crazy story.
That's a mess.
I have a crazy story.
Yes.
This woman was holding a big Oscars party, and she's like a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for a very long time. She invited me to perform at the Cannes Film Festival, and I met her when I was in the boy band. I was in a boy band called No Authority, and we met way back then. And she invited me to this Oscars party, and she told my publicist, she said, Ricky can come, but he's not allowed to do anything political. Okay? So I said, okay, that's fine. So I showed up to this party, and I wasn't on the list. She didn't put me on the list. I was supposed to do the red carpet, and I wasn't on the red carpet list. I'm like, that's fine, I'll just go and hang out with everybody. And then the main guy saw what I was wearing, and then he was like, okay, Ricky, get over here, get on the red carpet. You look amazing. So I did the red carpet, I did the whole thing, and then I started walking, and in the courtyard, she was coming out, and I'm not gonna give her any names or anything, but she came out and she was like, this was right after the Grammys. She's like, what the hell did you do? How could you be so stupid? You just ruined your career. It's over. You're not supposed to be political. You're not supposed to be political, Ricky. And here she is raising money for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She's like, Hillary's in her Facebook, you know, her Instagram. And I'm like, she's like, you're not supposed to get political. I said, you know, listen, I did it for freedom of speech. I did it for the 60 million plus Americans who voted for Trump. And I don't apologize for that. I was really calm, really respectful, you know, because she invited me to her house and she still let me show up. But there was a lot of things I wanted to say to that bitch.
I'm sure.
A lot of things I wanted to say, but I held my tongue. And then she said, you know, you need to immediately make a video saying that Make America Great is for all Americans. All Americans. I'm like, well, duh. I'm like, that's what it's about. It's about making America great for all Americans. Like, that goes without saying. So, anyway, that's my story. But I had a great time, and just everything that they tried to sabotage, they tried to put me way in the back. People came and put me way in the front. So it was just really interesting how you spoke about God and how things just kind of work out anyway. It's, you know, it's interesting.
Sorry. For me, the craziest thing really was when we had our New York event. Like, I never thought there would be so much controversy and so much, I mean, you guys are here, what are we saying that's so terrible, that's such hate speech? But what really drove me crazy with it was they compiled this whole portfolio of our hate speech. And they took videos from my YouTube channel. And, you know, for example, I made one video to speak out against racism and white supremacy and white pride sort of bullshit. And they spliced out a part where I'm quoting somebody as if they're my words. They painted my anti-racist video as evidence of my own racism. Or on one I had made, there was a thing where I had said, I vehemently disagree with modern gender ideology, and they cut the sentence off right there. The next part of the sentence was, but regardless, I 100% support trans people having all of the rights and respect and equality in the world. And that was to show that I'm transphobic. But I think you are awesome, and you are living proof against all this collective intersectional bullshit. And I especially am I really feel like I'm seeing so many transgender people starting to speak out about it, because in my opinion, trans people have been absolutely shit on by the left.
Amen.
Being grouped in with these ridiculous people. And, you know, I'm sorry, if you are a 60-year-old man who identifies as a gender-fluid 3-year-old girl, you are a ridiculous person.
Bravo.
Blair, magaphobia, do you have a story?
Oh God, I didn't even want to talk about it. Like PTSD, girl. Has anyone seen the video I did wearing it on Hollywood Boulevard? Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who haven't, I definitely wanted to do a social experiment video. I had just moved to Hollywood. I was like, oh wow, everyone here like hates the fucking president, so let me wear the hat and just see what happens. So I walked, first of all, I have to say I walked in West Hollywood where all the gays were and like no one cared. Everyone was very nice. It was very refreshing and I actually loved it. But then I went to Hollywood Boulevard and I shit you not, this was not planned, we had no idea. There was an anti-Trump protest there. So I'm walking on the sidewalk and there's a protest in the street. And then my fiance and I, boyfriend at the time, decided to take a picture, a selfie with the hats on, and it was ripped off of his head. I went to go get it because they weren't going to steal my hat. And this guy with a pink pussy hat, do you remember those? Decided to try to rip it away. And I'm knocked on the ground and he's stomping on my hand and my acrylic nail breaks off, including my real nail, so it was bleeding all over. Real pain, real pain. So I decided to leave after that, which the cops like didn't help, by the way. They kind of just watched it, which I thought was kind of weird. So I was walking, doing a sign off. I was like, I'm going home, I'm over it. And then someone runs by and throws a glass of alcohol in my face, which really burned my eyes. So that's pretty much the craziest thing I've been through, which is like getting assaulted twice in like 10 minutes.
And this is the thing, the double standard only ever goes in one direction politically. Can you imagine if a conservative did that to a transgender liberal? What would the reaction be? What would the media response be?
Yeah, it'd be crazy. Yeah.
Okay. That's so loud. Okay. I'm Blaire.
Hi.
So my name is Anna, and I'm an artist. I go to college or whatever.
A lot of artists here, by the way. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
But anyways, okay. So I have like no friends there because I don't like to tell people that I'm conservative or nothing because then they're like, oh, you're Mexican, why are you conservative or whatever. But I did this experiment with this guy, and he wanted to be my friend and stuff, said I was a really lovely person. He liked my art. But then, like, months later, he had said something stupid, and I called him out on it because for a while he had been saying a lot of dumb shit, and I was just like, okay, it's time to call him out. So like I said, I was really nice to him. And then one day he started to call me, as soon as I spoke up about what he said, he called me disgusting and that I was like a racist and homophobic. I'm just like, how the fuck am I homophobic, right? I guess the entire thing is like, how do you approach being a conservative in college, and especially, well, I know you're not mad or nothing, but I'm like repeating myself, I'm so sorry. But my question is like, how do you make friends without saying that you're like conservative? Like, do you just not say anything? Because like my thing with this guy is that I didn't say anything about being conservative until I did. That's when he started calling me these names. And I guess I'm shaking you. I'm so nervous.
You're fine.
You're doing great.
Great job.
Thank you. Yeah, that's just my question. Like, how do you make friends while being a conservative?
Stuff like this. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of people in here who would be your friend, first of all. And it's very difficult in college. I remember feeling like I had to compromise my beliefs all the time. I had one class, this is so crazy. I can't even believe it happened. So I had one class, it was like a foreign studies class or something like that. And we had to do some big test. It was like towards the end of the year. And it was actually a BuzzFeed quiz we had to take. It was, how racist are you? It was a quiz that supposedly told you how racist you are, and that was literally like a final grade, which was insane. And I knew it wasn't, that was before I had progressed a lot politically and even started my channel actually. But even then I knew it was like such bullshit. So I decided like, okay, I'm gonna do the assignment, I'm gonna write the paper on the quiz, but I'm gonna write about how unscientific it is, how stupid it is, and how I shouldn't have to do it, instead of writing, about how racist I am, because I'm not fucking racist. And I failed the class. And so what I learned from there is that sometimes when you're in college, never compromise your beliefs socially, in my opinion, but sometimes in college you have to get through, because the only way to actually affect change is to like have that degree and go out and kill it and change the world. But it is hard in college, so I totally get it. But yeah, just find people, open-minded people, like people in this room. Like, just be more open with the group of people you're willing to talk to, I guess.
I think, you know, this is something that I deal with a lot in dating, is that, like, you're not sure what, you have to come out of the not gay closet. It's like, you're not really sure when to tell them, and it's like, I want them to hear it from me, but if they Google me, or even if at a bar, if you meet someone, so I'll sort of try to just, like, drop little hints. Like, you know, dog whistles, I'll give dog whistles that I'm not a leftist, like, say something about snowflakes or something, and see how they react to that I can sort of test the waters and dip a toe in, and then maybe two. If they say something about, like, I don't know, I don't know.
I'm so glad I'm not dating anymore.
Oh, you have no idea.
There are also groups that you can join. There's a really great group that Dawn, Greg, and I go to. We meet up every month, and I think Brandon's going to speak at it. It's Agents 355. It's a really great group in Hollywood, and we all get together once a month, and we just talk to each other, and we network with each other. We make friendships with each other, and I think that's basically how I've gotten a lot more friendships. It's just hanging out with like-minded people, and of course you can hang out with people who aren't like-minded too. I mean, but you also have to find more people that kind of think a little bit more like you, and you'll be fine.
Is after stepping back and looking, kind of back and forth between LGBT people and, whether it's evangelical Christians or just anybody in traditional faith, what I end up seeing is, at least in my view, is a lot of people who seem to be afraid of each other and are just staring at each other in one big Mexican standoff. What do you guys think are some good, important steps that we can all take just to, not necessarily even it's agreeing, or just being able to sit down at a table and talk to each other, instead of falling into the trap of people to judge you no matter what he says. He very clearly has a hate boner for my pets.
Okay, so as a gay person, I've always equal rights and civil rights have always been very important to me in the gay community, and that's something that I feel like I was always on the fighting lines for in any way that I could be. I'm a huge proponent of marriage equality for all people. I think that any two people who are in love should have the right to go to City Hall and sign a civil marriage contract with one another. I don't believe that any group of people, including LGBT people, should have the right to tell religious people that they have to accept their marriages or relationships. I think that religions should have the right to be autonomous in that way and not necessarily accept that. My point is that, for me, it was always about equality under the law, and it was always about civil and equal rights, which we have now in this country as gay people, as LGBT people. You cannot and will never be able to legislate acceptance. You cannot legislate tolerance. You've got what you need and what you want, which is the ability to go and do the same things legally in this country that anyone else can do. And so at that point, you just have to be happy with that and accept the fact that, grow the hell up and accept that not everyone's gonna love that you're gay. Not everyone's gonna celebrate that you're gay. Not everyone's gonna understand that you're gay or what it even means. Since I started this movement, the vast majority of conservatives, I believe, at this point have changed their mind to the point where they just don't care if people are gay anymore. They just don't care. But there are still, I think, a minority, and mostly based in their faith, who do. And those people will reach out to me and they'll say, and I don't mean this to be mean, but it just, in my opinion, some really ignorant things like, I love you despite your sinful lifestyle, or, I don't love the sin, but I love you. And the truth is, I just don't care anymore, because it's like, I don't need them to understand my sexuality. I don't need them to celebrate my sexuality. I truly just don't require it. It's just not important to me. Now, that wasn't true when I was a liberal. When I was a liberal, those kind of comments would have torn me apart, made me angry, and made me hate that person. Now, when I read those comments, the very few scatterings of comments that I get from people who say things like, I don't understand your choice to be gay, but it's your life. I just look at that and I say to myself, that is that person's version of being loving and tolerant, when in fact they just don't understand my sexuality. So rather than get hung up on the part of it where they don't understand, why not just accept the love that they're giving me? They're trying to give me love in the way that they understand how to do it. And so I just receive the love and forget about the misunderstanding the rest. I don't need, it's not important that they understand or approve or celebrate my sexuality. I just accept the love.
And I think this is something that's starting to change with Christians. You know, for example, when we had our event that we were supposed to have at the LGBT Center, before they canceled it, they'd spoken on behalf of us for like a day before that changed. However, I watched as donations rolled in to the LGBT Center of New York, donation after donation after donation from people who are self-identified as conservative Christians saying, do good with it for the LGBT community. So I really think it is something that's changing. Of course, that definitely exists, but I do think it is a minority. And this whole thing, since being involved with WalkAway and everything, really changed my mind on how I had always viewed Christians. Because I'll be the first to say I was very ignorant and had I was one of those people who had a very negative opinion and just assumed, oh, they're all crazy and homophobic and hateful. And I've really come to see that that is not true at all for most of them. So I really think things are changing. Oh, and I think you said a good thing too about how people fear each other because people don't know each other. I think most of the people that are so hateful towards conservatives or Trump supporters, how many of them do they really know? Probably not many.
Right.
I think that the radical left faction of the LGBT community is doing a huge disservice to the non-radical LGBT community. And I think that it's making a little bit more people on the far right who have problems with gay people, make them hate us even more.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
So what I want to do is create a new face of what it means to be LGBT and conservative. That's what Brandon's here. That's why we're all here right now, is because we're trying to transform those people's ideas of what it means to be LGBT. And all these resistors, like resist Trump, resist, and screaming when he won, it makes us look worse. So if anybody's out there like who is a far left liberal, like please understand, I don't think personally that you're doing anything nice for the LGBT community. We need to work with this president. We need to, and they need to understand, the right needs to understand that we're not all crazy loony. You know, we have our heads straight. A lot of us have our heads straight and we want to make change, positive change. Like if I got in the room with Trump right now, President Trump, I'd say, President Trump, I freaking love what you've done for this economy, 5 million plus jobs, lowest unemployment for African Americans and Latinos. It's amazing. And you want strong borders, you want to protect us. I freaking love that. What I want to do, President Trump, is I want you to say something for Gay Pride Month. I want you to recognize gay pride because there are LGBT people out there who exist. And we want you to say something nice about us because we serve in the military. We are, you know, we do our taxes. We contribute to the United States of America. So please say something, you know, a shout out at Gay Pride. That's one of the things I would like from President Trump.
I love that you said all of that, and I think everything you just said is so important because you said it so eloquently, and I've, in my own way, been trying to kind of communicate this same thought to people too. But it's something that I haven't thought it through completely, but I do think that there's something there in that because so many black people are voting Democrat and so many LGBT people are voting Democrat, and let's be honest, to be liberal and to be Democrat right now is to kind of be living in an alternate universe where you're not exactly accepting reality and you're kind of upset all the time about things that aren't really happening. And that's exhausting for people. It's exhausting to have to like deal with people like that. And I honestly wonder sometimes if people look at us, assume that we're gay, and they're just like, oh, I just don't even want to talk to him. I just don't even. And listen, it exists on both sides too. When I see some girl with hairy armpits and short purple hair and a nose ring, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. SJW. And then all of a sudden she's like, I love Trump. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, but like, so you do get these little surprises and stuff, but it's like, it works the other way around too. Your point is so on target. It's like, because the vast majority of us are voting Democrat and acting like lunatics, I think it literally, people are, listen, most of us are pretty identifiable as gay, even if we don't think that we are. We are. And I think that it's causing a lot of people to just be like, I don't even want to engage. I don't even want to engage. Because they just assume that we're probably all crazy.
I really have to speak to that point as well. Because I think I mentioned earlier, maybe I said it backstage, I don't remember, but I think the depiction in the media of trans people is so fucking terrible. I think the people that's why I think liberals don't really do trans people that great of a service. I think they do make far-right people hate trans people a lot. Because if you look at who all these liberal outlets put in their magazines, in their videos, on their websites, it's people like Alok Vinman, who I've done a video on, who has like a hairy chest and a sunflower dress and spiked green mohawk and calls himself a trans woman. That is what the media wants to put out there, because that's clickbait. They're walking, talking clickbait. They want to put trans people as freak shows. And it flows to the other side, where I don't know if you guys have ever seen maybe, let's say, a Daily Wire article about trans people. They'll pick the craziest looking fucking drag queen from a gay pride parade with a swastika on their forehead and say trans people are now saying this. It's like, oh my God, it feeds itself. So that's why I've never been comfortable calling myself a liberal, at least as an adult, because I don't see them doing much for me at all in terms of making people like me more, which they claim to want to do.
Right.
And I think they're doing the same thing in the gay community. I think that there are so many issues that gay men in particular are facing in terms of addiction, and sexually transmitted diseases are rising, and a million different things that you can't even talk about. Because if you try to ever mention an issue facing gay people, you'll have someone screaming in your ear about non-binary, gender fluid, gender gifted, intersex two-spirits. You can't discuss anything else. But no, I think that's totally true. Actually, I remember one of your videos. I forget what it was you were talking about, but you were like, and this is why people fucking hate us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's true. Like, I just think, people whose minds we need to change about being accepting of LGBT people, what do you think they feel when they see 5-year-olds having sex changes, 6-year-old drag queens? Like, it's really doing such a disservice. And I really think that worse than anybody, they've done that with transgender people.
And then they want to put the P and make it pedophile as a sexual preference. That's not true? Okay. They better not. Because I've read that. We've all read that.
I think there are segments.
At the end of the day, if it's not true, congratulations. That's amazing. I'm very glad for the LGBT
I think there are
community.
segments online.
Because it shouldn't be.
But I don't think that's like the whole, obviously the LGBT community doesn't believe that. I think there are people online though, I've seen people have tweeted me, they're called MAPs, M-A-Ps. They're minor attracted persons, that's the term they want to use.
So horrible that we even need to know that.
I guess they consider themselves to be ethical pedophiles.
Well, that's a reality then. What I just said was...
It's
okay.
not super
I don't
widespread.
think it's mainstream.
It's not mainstream and not super widespread, but it does exist.
What I think, I sort of agree with the both of you with this, but I think what's concerning is it's part of this culture that keeps going further and further, where we just have to be so open-minded that our brains fall out. And on that issue, I don't know how the hell we got talking about this, but there have been 2 TED Talks, 2 of them, TEDx Talks, of physicians or some accredited people saying how pedophilia is a natural sexual orientation. So I don't agree with people who try to act like the LGBT community is pushing it, but I also don't agree with people who act like it might not be possible a few years from now that there are people pushing that.
Well, you're right. We did kind of wind off on a road, but I'm kind of glad that we got here, because it also, I think, leads to a conversation too about. And again, this goes back to my belief that liberalism is a cult, and that I think that it has grabbed a hold of vulnerable communities like the LGBT community. And part of the mindset of this cult is the push of boundless political correctness and identity politics, which have gone so far off the rails that we're now normalizing things that are incredibly dangerous, I think, and our community, I think, probably more than any other community is affected. The way we normalize addiction in the LGBT community is disgusting. The way we normalize unsafe sex, and that it's somehow it's stigmatizing to say having HIV really probably isn't a great thing, and we should be working harder not to get it than to normalize it. This is not judging anybody. I'm not trying to trigger anybody. I don't have a problem with people with HIV, but our community is constantly receiving these messages that it's like, rather than educate and try to create more prevention. It's like we're trying to normalize that. We're trying to normalize crystal meth use. We're trying to and you make such a good point, Mike. I'm stealing this from Mikey. I'm giving him credit for this. But Mikey has said to me before, if a heterosexual man who was in his 40s or 50s was going out every weekend, doing cocaine, doing crystal meth, having anonymous sex, doing drugs, people would say, this guy's the biggest loser. This guy has got some serious mental problems. And the gay community is like, he's fabulous. Why?
He's hot.
Yeah.
It only matters if he's hot.
Well, that's the thing. I think the dysfunction of gay people is the same dysfunction as human beings. The difference is that when you're gay, our community tells us that it's a positive thing. And I totally agree with what you said, that I think things that are becoming mainstream, that, you know, there have been a couple things online that they parade around, like openly gay 3-year-olds and, you know, 5-year-olds dancing half naked at Pride sexually. And it bothers me so much, because do you know how many years and decades it took LGBT activists and the gay community to convince society that gay people aren't pedophiles trying to recruit children? And now to see them doing all of these weird things with children, it bothers me so much, because it really is regressing.
Please check out Blair White's video about what's the kids show?
Queer kid stuff.
Queer kid stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's tragic.
Go on YouTube and look at Blair's video about queer kid stuff.
Queer kid stuff.
It's like a Mr. Rogers indoctrinating children like into very adult-themed LGBT. It's insane. It's a good video. It's you make it funny.
Yeah.
You make something that's not funny.
There's literally one that they did that's like, do you like apples and bananas? Then you're a bisexual.
Oh my God.
And their target audience, self-proclaimed, is 3 to 5-year-olds. So they're telling 3 to 5-year-olds you're bisexual if you like bananas.
That's so confusing. Sexuality is very confusing, even for adults.
Yeah.
I mean, we still can't figure it out, you know? It's very confusing. And to toss that on a little kid, they don't even know if they're a fireman or not. And then they're trying to say, you know, a 3-year-old can determine its sex or its gender. Too young. There's no way. And then they start pumping them with hormones. So many LGBT are against that. And we're like, what the hell is going on? And then the second we speak out about it, it's like we're racist, homophobic assholes. Right?
Well, that's the thing that drives me so crazy, is what I had said earlier about only 8% of this country considers themselves hard left. Because, you know, when it comes like to a subject like that of young children transitioning, how many people do you think are against that? I would guess like 90% of the population would be against that. But because that 8% that controls everything demands otherwise, if you have a problem with that, you are a Nazi, and it is hate speech.
And they'll take away your job.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
That's the thing. There's been many actors out there who've spoken out. Who's the comedian who spoke out about that?
About pedophilia?
No, just about like the trans children, where they're putting them on hormones. Anyway, I can't remember his.
So I am a trans individual who is going to college at a school called College of Sequoias. I drove a long ways to be here. I'm from Visalia. It's a small town.
Thank you.
The question was, well, are there any trans artists that you really, really enjoy? And I mentioned YouTubers, specifically Calvinera, because I'm a huge fan of him as well.
Ooh,
and immediately, what do you think of Blair White? And I noticed by that tone, I was like, oh God. Oh God. And I kind of lied. I didn't say I hated you. I said, well, I feel like she's a really good person. And I think that she's misread a lot, but maybe, she's not what the trans community needs right now. And I totally lied. That's such a lie. I don't think that at all. I don't think that at all. I know exactly what the trans community needs right now.
Hell yeah, you are.
The biggest event we've been working on all semester. It's called Rainbow in the Black and White World, and I'm going to be speaking on that panel. And I guess the fact that I lied about that causes me so much anxiety, because I don't want to have that fear again, I don't want to have that fear of like, if I tell the truth right now,
I'm gonna lose everything. I'm gonna lose all of it because I care so much about that panel. I care so much about my Pride Club and my friends, and like that's hours of dedication and work that I put in to helping that event become a success. And if I don't hold my tongue, and if I say, yeah, I fucking love Blair White, you know what I mean? I'm afraid of losing that. How do do I need to take that jump? How, I know I do if it comes up. But how do I get over that fear and that balance between wanting to maintain all those relationships and that part, because I really feel like Pride Club is so necessary where we're at, and it's come so far and we've reached so many people. But I see a hatred growing as well, and I'm afraid of branching those two things.
One thing, I witness a lot of conversations on Twitter between people who like me and watch my stuff and people who fucking hate me and never have watched my stuff but still hate me somehow. And I always see one talking point that seems to sort of get through to the people who hate me or don't want to accept me as something that might be good for the trans community, which is, even if you disagree with her, she's changing minds on that side, which no one else is doing. Maybe just bring that up, because I don't really know any other trans people that are effectively communicating with the right now. I don't, as much as I love people like Laverne Cox, I'm politically opposed to her a lot, but as much as I like other people, Carmen Carrera, all of them, none of them can have a conversation with people on the right. So maybe you don't have to proclaim like your everlasting love for me, but maybe you can just, kind of tone it down a little bit and be like, maybe she's not awful. Maybe she's changing some minds on that side that other people can't do.
I loved your interview with Ben Shapiro, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With Ben Shapiro. I took the microphone, so sorry.
That's funny. I actually, I think this is somebody you know too. A while ago, I met this guy at a party, and I forget how, but the subject of you came up, and I had said, I love you. And he was like, Blair White, are you kidding me? She is literally calling for non-binary and transgender people to be killed. I was like,
literally.
To be killed? I was like, where did she say that? Can you show me? Oh, I don't know. I know she said it. She said it. I was like, dude, I will give you every penny that is in my bank account right now if you can show me where she has said that. And then the goalposts shift. Oh, well, I can't find where she said it, but she might not have said that exactly, but that's what she was thinking.
That's insane.
Just love to tell you what you meant by what you said and what's also secretly in your head.
Honestly, that goes back to what you were talking about earlier about how when that press release was done, bashing all of us, and they had to splice up what you said and literally lie about what you said. If you have to lie to make someone seem 10 times worse, you're the one that's wrong.
When you were talking to Blair and just telling that story, there's this part of me that's sort of I love making videos, and I love creating videos. That's just a format that I love to communicate using. And sometimes I see life in videos and segments and moments. And I was watching you, and I thought, my God, that's such a beautiful video that should be on YouTube, because there was such a vulnerability. I mean, I think it was almost like it was a confession. You gave us all a confession that you felt ashamed because you denied something. Just like we've all in this room denied something about ourselves at a period of time that makes us feel ashamed because we're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with us being gay, and there's nothing wrong with us being conservative. And it's a terrible feeling to lie about your truth just because you think that other people are going to reject you if you don't. And I think that it might be a big leap for you, but I would encourage you one day, if you find the courage, to make a video saying exactly what you just said right now, because there was such a sweetness and such a vulnerability and delicacy to the way that you just communicated that I think would resonate with a lot of people, and I think it would be very difficult for anybody with a heart and a brain to judge you or come after you for saying it just the way that you said it right now.
Amen.
I have to say, I'm so touched by what you said, and really, things are really starting to change. I never in my lifetime thought that I would see, because even back when I was a liberal, I always felt like a freak amongst the gay community. They never wanted anything to do with me. I could never be myself. I always felt so judged by them, and there's just such conformity, and things are really starting to change. It wasn't easy decades ago. It must have felt insurmountable and crazy, the idea that someday people would accept gay people and trans people. But now it's just normal. So I really think, as hard as it is, I think you're going to get so much support, and I think every one of us that can continue the change and be more and have more of us who are outspoken, I really think would be amazing, and I think you're amazing.
Yeah, you are amazing. I want to tell you, like, we all have to just do our best to tell the truth. That's basically the bottom line, as much as we can. Because when we don't tell the truth and we hold back and we don't reveal who we really are to people, we feel like prisoners, we feel like slaves and or ashamed, and it just feels so good just to come out and tell the truth. You'll free yourself. So I agree with Brandon. If you made a video, it would be so amazing.
I'll share it.
Me too.
Me too.
Do it in a big way. You'll have so much support.
Here's the thing that I can't wrap my head around, and it's really like the foundation of why this is happening and where we find ourselves today. I think that LGBT activists from the 60s and the 70s would just be like beating their heads against the walls, heads against walls right now, like trying to understand what's happening, because we're actually creating victimization now where it does not exist. We have finally gotten to the point where all of these people fought to get for so long, and now we're literally pretending to be victimized so that we can stay perpetually in this state of oppression and victimhood. I do not understand it. Like, this is right now, literally in 2019, we live in the greatest country and the greatest era to be a gay person in the history of humanity. This is the greatest time and place. And they don't want it. Our community is rejecting the freedom. It makes no sense to me. I literally, like Ricky just said a moment ago, the most liberating moment of my life was coming to the conclusion that I am now in fact a conservative. I am now in fact a Republican. I told the truth about it. And lo and behold, I am loved by Republicans. I am loved by conservatives. And I thought to myself, my God, what an amazing thing to know that my sexuality is tolerated on the left and it's tolerated on the right. And I get to choose now. I don't have to go into the booth and vote defensively and pull the lever for everything that has a D beside it out of defense. I get to choose. Do I like that Democratic candidate? Do I like that Republican candidate? What an amazing, but they don't want it. They don't want the freedom. I don't understand it. Like, what do we have to do? I mean, this is it, but I mean, it's like, why do we have to break down a wall to tell people, hey guys, here's the memo, you're free, enjoy it. You're free, enjoy it. I don't get it.
And I get that there are some things with Republicans, that there are still some remnants of their old school things. Personally, I'm not a fan of the trans military ban. I think it's been overblown by the media, but I still don't think it sends a good message. It's just another thing that sends the message that the right doesn't care about LGBT people. So I get it that there are some little things, but I mean, they act like we're bigger victims now than they did in the 80s and 70s and 60s. It's crazy.
Right.
And I think when you have all of these special interest groups that are based on identity, they need to keep finding victimhood to keep themselves in business. It always has to be something else. They're not just going to say, okay, we won, pack up and go home.
I just moved to the United States, and this was my dream to come to
Welcome, brother.
I have a O1 visa, which is a work visa, and I work in tech. And working tech is extremely hard. I work for a big company here in West Hollywood, and no matter what I talk, it just feels like I'm not being me. It just feels like I'm being someone else. And even with my friends, when I tell them my story, I come from Brazil, a country that was completely destroyed by socialism. I immigrated to Canada because I found a job. I never went to university, I couldn't afford it. My parents still had money, I sent them money every month. Like, I moved to Canada because I found a job there 6 years ago, and then I got a job here, and I moved here because it was always my dream. I felt like it was a way to come here. But no matter which story you tell them and what your background is, that never changed their mind. They always find an excuse to tell that you're wrong for not being a leftist. But what's really hard for me, and actually I'm very nervous right now because there's so many cameras and I'm afraid of losing my job. But what's very hard right now is that how do we put people together? How do we remind people that we are all humans and that we want good things and that we want to be happy and that there's nothing wrong. there's nothing wrong of having immigrants coming legally and not wanting them coming legally. There's nothing wrong about people not being okay with gay marriages, some people being, as long as everybody has the freedom to do it. But I just feel like, for example, this event, it's a great event, but there's barely anyone from the left to here. And I see people like Milo, and I see people like Hunter Avalon doing straw stuff. And I mean, it's entertaining and it's fun, I like it, but I don't feel like it's effective. And how can we be effective? How can we, like, I know that showing, like, for example, I saw your video, Blair White, and I was shocked with what happened to you in Hollywood. I live right there, Hawthorne and North La Brea, so I'm right there, and I was shocked. But like, a leftist see that video, it won't change their mind, it won't affect them. Like, how can we be effective? Because I'm tired of living in a cage. I'm tired of going to work, afraid of rolling my eyes at something because I can't like not roll my eyes and lose my job because of that. I'm afraid of in a happy hour saying my opinion because I drank a little bit too much and losing my job. And it's just so hard. I go on dates. Unfortunately, I didn't have the same luck as Richard. But I go on dates here and like 5 minutes and I'm like rolling my eyes and it's just over. I just feel like, I'm sorry, I just feel like I live in the greatest country in the world, in the freest country in the world where you can be anything, and I feel like I cannot be me.
Okay, so I can feel in your voice and what you're saying that you're feeling overwhelmed, and you feel probably like the condition that we're living in right now and the times that the problem is insurmountable. Let me just remind you, it is not. The problem is not insurmountable. Everything that you just said right now could have literally been something that a gay person was saying from the 1970s or 1980s about being gay. And look where we are today about gay people. There was a time when we never thought we would overcome homophobia, but we did it. We did it, and we'll do it with this too. It's not gonna happen overnight, and it is, I mean, we've said this numerous times on this panel tonight, and we're just gonna have to keep saying it and keep saying it. The power to change this, it doesn't require a magical cure. It's right here in all of us. It's speaking up together. Everybody's afraid to be the person who speaks up, and I get it. You're afraid of losing your job, you're afraid of losing your friends. If we somehow had a day where we said everyone's going to stand up and say it together on the same day, boom, you know, we would have millions of people standing up and everyone would go, oh my God, you know, and all of a sudden there would be this sort of equalization of the points of view. We're only hearing one point of view right now coming from the left. It makes it feel like everybody feels this way, but they don't. Mikey already said it's like 8% of the population are controlling the narrative. This is not an insurmountable problem. We just have to continue to speak up, and we have to grow this movement, and we have to continue to grow and grow and grow and speak up, and show people that there are a lot of us, and that you do have a choice. And making these videos, you know, in the WalkAway campaign, making the WalkAway testimonial videos, you said something, I can't remember what you said, but it was something along the lines of only one person, or God, I can't remember now, but I wanted to stop you at the moment that you were saying it, because one person can make a difference, you know, and one person speaking up does change somebody's mind. It's a domino effect. But don't ever lose heart, and don't ever feel like it's so overwhelming that we can overcome this, and we will overcome this. We overcame homophobia. We gay people are very resilient, you know, and we can withstand a lot, and we'll fight, and we'll win this war too, just like we overcame homophobia.
I have two people that are actually here that have been working with WalkAway for the past 2 days that are registered Democrats, and because they watched the video last night and because they came today, they're like thinking of changing and walking away. So they actually
Anybody in the middle, because I've been reading this and going up.
While you're heading up there, I'm going to make an announcement, because you already said we're wrapping up, and I know there's people who are going to run to their car before the event is over. We have a special message for everybody. If you take out your phones and you text LGBT, oh Jesus, yeah, she did, yeah. This is all wrong. It's LGBTLA to 51400. We have a special message from WalkAway campaign for all of you. And I also want to announce that outside, if anybody's interested, although it kind of seems like everyone's a conservative, we have voter registration forms if anyone wants to either register to vote or change their voter registration. And please, if you feel that what we're doing here is important in these town halls and the messages and all of the work that we're doing with WalkAway, please donate. Go to walkawaycampaign.com. These events cost a lot of money, and we're all willing to do the work and travel around and spread this message, but we need your help. WalkAwaycampaign.com, you can make a donation, and please text LGBTLA to 51400. Thank you.
Blair, love you, huge fan. For anybody looking for a community in Los Angeles, Log Cabin Republicans has been around for 40 years. We have meetings, there are other people there. Please do come. There's also a Jordan Peterson meetup group, which is great. Please come. And for my Muslim brother, I don't want this to come in any way targeting Muslims. I love Muslims, but I'm a refugee in the United States from Iran. I was born Jewish in Iran, and we had to flee. And it's really, really crazy to me that about a mile from here, the Sultan of Brunei, who announced he's going to be executing gay people, is running a hotel. How is the LGBT community in Los Angeles letting that man run a hotel in Los Angeles?
And they're silent about it. They're not interested. That's the hierarchy of intersectionality. Nothing Muslim is at the top of it. It's the same way when Islamists protest gay kids in school or something. They have nothing to say.
What's interesting is that recently there were protesters outside of the West Hollywood City Hall about Britney Spears being released from a mental health facility, which I support because I love Britney. But you're right, there's no protesters outside that hotel, but there was about Britney Spears, which again, love Britney, but like, there's levels to this, you know?
And wouldn't it be amazing if we as an LGBT community came together in a bipartisan way or in any way to actually fight real, actual homophobia and real, actual anti-gay travesties that are happening, not in this country, but around the world? I mean, here's a word that they know. Here's a word that the left knows and loves: privilege. We are the most privileged fucking gay people in the world, and we do nothing to help gay people around the world.
Yes. It's just so bizarre to me, the way that the left has this newfound love for radical fundamentalist Islam. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
I had a point with that. I forgot what it was.
Is this our last?
One more. I'm so sorry. Can we just do two more, because she had told somebody, but this lady's had her hand up the entire time.
Yeah, she has. I've seen her. Okay.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank you all for your courage. You're very, very inspirational. And I've met Ricky a couple times, and I have to say he has the biggest balls in the world.
Thank you. I am the new alpha.
Living in Hollywood and doing what you do is really amazing. I had the pleasure of speaking to his mother, who's extremely proud of him.
She's right there.
Yay.
I'm a mother of boys, so it was a beautiful discussion. I'm proud to work for her son. One thing I actually want to ask you is, do you guys ever use the legal system as a tool? Because you constantly experience defamation, and unfortunately in the world we live in, money talks, and it seems like, now with this whole Covington issue, these big outlets are getting sued, and I think that's great. So do you think at some point, if enough people do that, then maybe they will actually stop reporting fake news? And have any of you considered that?
Personally, I know for me, I'm a bit different than the Covington kids, but my name is attached to so many fucking awful things on the internet. If you Google my name, the word ethno-nationalist can come up, Nazi, of course, racist, just everything that really defames a person, which is why I know I'm gonna have to do entertainment forever, because I don't think I'll ever get a real job now, or I'll change my name again. But so for me, it's harder when you're a public figure per se. But I fully support, obviously with the case of the Covington kids, people who aren't public figures are also lied about constantly. So I think that's a really good idea to pursue legal action always in that case. That's just my experience of being a public figure.
I can kind of speak to this in real time because when we tried to do our LGBT town hall in New York at the original venue, which was the LGBT Center, and can I first of all say, I just want to put this out there on the record, there was no part of me that was trying to troll the LGBT Center or trigger anybody. I legitimately, from my heart, felt like this was an amazing opportunity for our community to come together in a truly diverse way and have a conversation. I told the LGBT Center in New York exactly who I was, what we were doing. I had to fill out an application. I explained this was the WalkAway campaign. This was a political town hall style discussion for the LGBT community. They knew this. They knew all of this. They took my money. They accepted my application. They approved the application. We signed contracts. And I said to them very specifically, are we good to go? Because I do not want to promote this event until you tell me we're good to go. They said, you're good to go. Go for it. We took out a full-page ad in an LGBT magazine in New York City, and that's when the shitstorm began. The national LGBT magazines like The Advocate, Out Magazine, all of these trusted news sources of the LGBT community immediately started attacking us. They perpetuated the narrative that we're white supremacists, Nazis, a hate group. This led to the dossier being compiled against all of us. They went through our social media. They extracted various moments that they could twist and spin as being proof and evidence that we are all these deep, dark, terrible things that they were accusing us of being. And then to add insult to injury, at any point, the LGBT community in New York City could have called me on the phone and said, look, we're concerned about security, we're concerned about this, we're concerned about that, we don't feel comfortable going forward with this event. I would have understood that. I really would have understood it. What they chose to do instead was go on Twitter, make a public statement saying that after doing their research, they agreed with the findings of the media and the dossier that had been put out against us, that the event was canceled. They never contacted me. To this day, they still have never contacted me to ask my opinion, give me a chance to defend myself, or even say, hey, sorry, we have to cancel your event. And many people came to me and pointed out something that's so true. If the WalkAway campaign doesn't take a stand against this, who is going to? And so we do intend to take legal action against the magazine. Against the magazines that defamed us, and against the center that continued the defamation on social media against us. And in the end, regardless of anything that might happen in litigation or with a lawsuit, I just want people to know that we should be pushing back, we should be fighting back, and we're recording these town halls, and they will be released so the public will know the truth about what the WalkAway campaign is about and what it is that's really going on in these town halls. And the left is going to be exposed. And shame on them for trying to prevent a community from receiving information so that they have to stay stuck and afraid.
And let me just add to that too. Something that was used that people said as a justification of them shutting down the event was, oh, well, the community has spoken. It's the vast majority of the LGBT community that didn't want it to happen. So I ran the numbers a little bit. There were, I think, 280 signatures on the open letter, most of which were anonymous. So somewhere, you take out the anonymous, somewhere between 200 to 300. When you look at the LGBT population of New York City, that is 5/100ths of 1% of the New York LGBT community.
And by the way, we had more than that come to our LGBT town hall.
Did you get the money back that you paid them?
Yes, so the next week they refunded the money without it. It just came back into my bank account, but there was never a phone call, an email, or a statement made of any kind to me personally. They just refunded the money, but that's not really the point. No, agreed, yeah.
Hello, Blair White, big fan. it's actually taken a lot of courage for me to come up here because I have horrible social anxiety, so I will try to make this as brief as possible. So just a little context. I am somebody who formerly described themselves as being a social justice warrior. I was a hardcore leftist. I preached, all the typical buzzwords and all that. And a few years ago, when I met my boyfriend, he kind of helped me open my eyes by, telling me to chill for 5 minutes because I made everything political and drove me crazy. So he kind of sat me down and showed me Christina Sommers for the first time, and that kind of that allowed me to kind of okay, maybe some of the things I'm saying are a little wrong. And then when the whole Gamergate Anita Sarkeesian thing happened, that was kind of my moment where I'm just like, okay, I don't like a lot of the stuff that's being talked about. I have opinions that I want to speak about, and kind of because of that, I try to put my voice out there, and a lot of times, people get rejected, and all that stuff. I'm sure all of you guys have been there. But I guess my question is, because this is something that I've been dealing with, what would you say for all of you is the biggest personal struggle that you have faced, kind of coming to the realization that a lot of the things that you believed, you don't believe anymore? What was the hardest thing? Because I think for me, the most challenging thing was coming to grips with the fact that a lot of people that I knew didn't agree with me, and again, kind of just decided that they didn't want to be my friend anymore. I recently lost one of my really good friends from college who decided that I was a transphobe, I was racist, I had internal misogyny, and just all these horrible things. And so I'm wondering, what is the hardest part, do you think, the thing that you all had to overcome when you came to the realization that, okay, everything I believed, I don't believe it anymore? So, yeah, thank you.
It was friends for me too, I think. It was losing a lot of friends.
Yeah. When growing up in the entertainment industry, I started when I was 11 years old and did a bunch of commercials and movies and things like that. And then I came out of the closet really late because I was into girls for a very long time, still am, but at the same time I was a late gay. And I came from a small town, Upland, and then I moved to LA, Hollywood, and it was everything changed. There's this huge gay world here. We're in the heart of it right now, West Hollywood. And I remember, doing the whole gay situation. I mean, you go to the clubs, you are with your friends till 3 a.m., you're living that wild, crazy lifestyle, but I always felt alone. I never felt like I belonged. So, and I tried very hard, and I would wear the most outrageous outfits, and I would perform at all of these clubs and do crazy wild music and try to be provocative and things like that. So for me, I kind of had to have this realization that I think all this time I've actually been kind of conservative, all this whole time, because I value the family. I was raised by my mother and my father who really love me and support me, and I really believe in the family. It's very important. I believe so much in freedom of speech and the right to bear arms and all of these crazy things that I didn't really believe. Well, I believed in freedom of speech, of course, but the fact to bear arms and things like that, I had to educate myself. So it's this kind of realization that, wait, maybe I've always been this way, and that's why I really kind of didn't fit in with the darkness, the dark side of things, because I want to bring the light out. So that's kind of what I've had to kind of just be okay with. It's okay to be for the light, for, you know what I'm saying? It's okay to be conservative, and it's not a big deal, and I'm still actually pretty liberal at the same time. So my point is I've had to kind of marry that with myself and be okay with that.
I think for me, it's we're things that you guys are feeling and saying this, even where we're standing up here, probably, at least I do, still feel the same way, We act very strong and stuff, but it is very hurtful to be called these things, that there are actually people out there who think I'm a Nazi. And my dad, who's my best friend, is Jewish, and I grew up around people with numbers tattooed on their arm. Or that there are people who think I'm a white supremacist, I'm homophobic, I'm transphobic, and that nothing I ever say will change that. It sucks. It's a really difficult thing to grasp that somebody could actually think that about you. And I think for me, what the hardest part has been is feeling like I'll never be able to do anything else in my life, you know, because you Google my name and it says I'm a Nazi and a white supremacist and hate speech and all that. And I've just sort of felt, it wasn't actually, you know, every day sort of over the past year since I've been doing this, I've just felt such anxiety and such a fear that I've been too outspoken and there's no going back and the toothpaste is out of the tube. And it was actually when they canceled our event that I was like, no, fuck it, I'm not going to be afraid anymore of that. And, you know, even just simply saying that I don't despise Trump and may vote for him, like it's crazy to me that in the United States of America, any of us should have to be so afraid to have a nuanced view about the president or anything that isn't leftist.
When my walkaway happened because of the media, as I kind of got into earlier, and this word I'm about to use is funny, but it's like I'm actually not kidding. I felt traumatized when I discovered that the media I had everything backwards. Like it turned my world upside down. Because first of all, as a liberal, I thought I knew everything. I thought I had the world figured out. I thought I belonged to the camp that was more evolved than everybody else. So I thought I was at the front lines of progress and everyone else was kind of trailing behind me. Suddenly I was like thrust in this situation where I was like, oh my God, I think the vast majority of everything I thought I knew actually wasn't true. I think that people I've spent my whole life thinking were very stupid are actually smarter than me. I think I'm actually kind of dumb and uninformed. And I also, most frighteningly, no longer know who to trust. Because I used to trust Rachel Maddow. I used to trust Anderson Cooper and that dipshit Don Lemon and all these different people. And now suddenly I don't know who to trust anymore. And I didn't walk out of the door of the Democratic Party and right into the door of the Republican Party. Throughout most of 2017, I was lost. And the worst part about it was going through something like that where you feel like your world's turned upside down, you feel betrayed, you feel like you don't know how to trust, and you don't even have any fucking friends to turn to go through the situation with you and be like, go home and be like, can we please talk about what I'm going through and what I'm experiencing? I mean, I felt lost and confused and alone. And I guess if this is the last question and if this is going to be the final comment, I'd like to wrap it up on, because I think this is maybe a good place to leave it. The liberal media has gone so insane and so berserk since Donald Trump was elected that they themselves have caused so many more people to wake up and so many people to get it just based off of how extreme they've become and how far they've gone. There are a lot of people in this country who just spent the last 2 years of their lives hanging all their hopes and dreams on the idea that a Mueller report would come out that would result in the president being imprisoned and indicted and removed from office. And I'm telling you, I'm going to use this word one more time, it's going to take months for a lot of those people to process that they have been lied to and betrayed, and they too are going to be traumatized when they realize they have been lied to inside and out, and everything that they thought they believed now for years so intensely was a complete lie and it was wrong. I think all of us should be there for those people and embrace them when they realize that they've been lied to.
Q.
And is that where we're leaving it? All right, thank you all so much for coming to LGBT Town Hall.
Thank you guys.
If you want to take some pictures with us, we'll be at the Step and Repeat. Come out, take fan pictures. We'd love to meet you, shake your hand, and take a picture.